On April 15 of 1912, the Titanic sank, taking with it the lives of more than 1,500 people. When we look back, it's quite difficult to pinpoint what exactly led to this tragedy. But maybe, instead of looking for the mistake, we can make some things clearer. The sinking of the Titanic remains one of the most captivating tragedies in maritime history. As we explore this fascinating story, we come across a mystery called the binoculars and lookout theory. The theory suggests that not having binoculars for the ship's lookout team might have caused the disaster. But there's more to this story than just the binoculars. Moments before the ship takes its way to New York City, David Blair, who was a British merchant seaman, was ordered to leave the ship as he was being replaced by another senior captain. And due to this sudden order, he packed his things quickly, leaving in his pocket one important factor: a simple key. Fred Fleet and Reginald Robinson Lee were assigned to be the lookouts, and it was noticed that the missing key was the cabinet key that had inside the binoculars that usually assist the lookouts in spotting objects. The heart of the issue lies in the belief that had binoculars been readily available to the Titanic's lookout team, the iceberg could have been spotted earlier, potentially altering the ship's course and preventing the catastrophe. The issue becomes more serious when we think about how important binoculars were back in the early 1900s. Binoculars were like special glasses that helped the lookouts see from far away, especially in icy places where icebergs could be a big problem. Now, imagine the crow's nest, which was like a lookout tower high up on the ship. It was where the lookout stood to keep an eye out for any dangers. But without binoculars, they couldn't see as well, and that made it hard to spot things that might cause trouble, like icebergs. Making the problem even trickier was how the moonlight worked on that unfortunate night. You see, when the moonlight shines on water, it can sometimes make things look different than they really are. This can confuse people, and even more the lookouts, who are trying to figure out if the thing in the water is an iceberg or just something else. Navigating icy waters is no straightforward task. The Titanic's speed, the chosen route through iceberg-prone regions, and the communication between the crow's nest and the ship's bridge all come into play. So, it's not just one problem, it's a bunch of things that all added up to create a big challenge. To understand what happened that night, we have to think about all these factors together. While binoculars could have been beneficial, they were not the sole determinant of the disaster. Yes, Friedrich Fleet, in his testimony, acknowledged that if they had the binoculars, they could have detected the iceberg earlier enough to get out of the way. However, George Alfred Hogg, who was also a lookout at that night, also mentioned that he uses the binoculars just to make sure of something his eye caught. If he sees an object with his own eyes, he might use the glasses then to make sure what's the object. What else? The ship was going very fast through an area where there were a lot of icebergs. This high speed can have a big impact on what happened after. In an era where communication and navigation technology were less advanced, reducing speed could have offered the crew more time to react to hazards. Additionally, the shortage of lifeboats for both passengers and crew is a sobering aspect of this tragedy. Only 20 lifeboats were there, and enough only for half of the people on the ship. Ensuring an adequate number of lifeboats could have saved more lives, irrespective of whether binoculars were available or not. Furthermore, communication between the crow's nest and the bridge was essential. Clearer and more efficient communication protocols might have enabled a quicker response to the iceberg sighting, even without binoculars. All of this determines that not just one simple missing key or one missing binoculars is the only factor that led to this tragedy. Finally, while the missing binoculars add an element of intrigue, it's crucial to recognize the heroic efforts of the crew members who risked their lives to save others on that fateful night. Their dedication and bravery often remain overshadowed by the focus on the missing binoculars. In conclusion, the binoculars and lookout theory surrounding the Titanic's sinking is one page in whole book While the absence of binoculars is a compelling aspect of this story, it is but one facet of a multifaceted tragedy. The Titanic's speed, route, communication, and the shortage of lifeboats all played significant roles in the disaster. While we might never know for sure if binoculars could have changed the outcome, we can still remember and honor the people who faced this terrible event with great bravery.